Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bag Room. I'm Brian Ballinger. Great to have you here with us. John Hess is our guest. He is the Vice President of Marketing for GT Golf Supply Company, which is the company that owns Clicgear. And you may be familiar with Clicgear, especially if you are a seasoned golfer like me. You're a seasoned walking golfer like me. And John and I met at the PGA Merchandise Show back in January. Had a great conversation. And it's great to circle back with you and have you on the show to kind of talk about more or less what we talked about down in an enormous convention center in Florida. And that is the story of bringing back Clicgear to its former glory. So let's start there. How'd you get involved with the brand, and why Clicgear? What did that brand name kind of invoke to you?
I got involved almost entirely because of Clicgear. Got a call about a year and a half ago from some folks at GT Golf, and I'd never heard of GT Golf because it's mostly a B2B. It's not really a direct-to-consumer, but I knew that they were the distributors of Clicgear and had plans to acquire the brand. I had been a Clicgear advocate for a long time. I think I had a 2, a 3, a 3.5, 3.5 over the years. I like to walk. I'm a walker. I feel like I play better golf. I'm more connected. All of the things that a lot of data has shown. So GT, we bought Clicgear from the previous owners, the original owners, last May, and knew that we had to really start innovating again. My background is from Nike, and the product director that I work with, he's also from Nike, and one of the maxims there is innovation is in our blood. So there hadn't been a new cart in 6 years. And there's a certain amount of, if it ain't broke, why are we trying to fix it? But the world has changed a lot in those 6 years. The way golfers interact with the game, the accessories they use, that has all changed as well, as it always will. So we knew that we had to learn a lot from consumers, from golfers. So we went out and talked to golfers everywhere from, basically the pinnacle of athletes who would use a Clicgear cart, NCAA athletes, and, a lot of women on tour, not the LPGA tour, but some of the other tours use the carts, as well as talking to golfers like the rest of us, who choose to push and not carry and not ride. And we learned, you think you know a sport, you think you know something. I've been in golf my entire life, and you learn. And we took those learnings and applied them to the new 4.5.
Among the many things that you probably learned in this process, what was kind of the headline takeaway after you got all your data? You got it from great players, weekend hackers, everyone in between. What was kind of the big thing that stood out to you and said, all right, this is job one. This is the thing we most have to address?
It was one of those moments where you think, again, you think you know the game, you think you've thought through it at every different level. And what we broke it down to was really simple. Golfers need things shot to shot. They need things hole to hole, and they need things side to side, even round to round. And when you break it down and start to think about the way we interact with our tools as golfers, of course, the clubs and the balls are there always, right? That's a given. We don't mess in that world. There's a lot of really great companies that do. So we wanted to take a look at golfers and study them. We did like time motion studies and basically just watched other people play. And instead of playing ourselves and study them, that those 4 categories were the places where we as a brand can interact with golfers and provide them with the support, the help, the ease, the consistency, the durability, all of those things, all those adjectives that we like to apply to the brand, and just make it easier for them. Simple things like the old version didn't have a phone holder. We live in the digital world. Some people bury their phone; they don't want anything to do with it. But the more people we talk to, they said, "Hey, I'm either putting my scores in during the tournament, I'm using it as my rangefinder and my GPS. I'm playing music on it, or I snuck out on a Friday afternoon, and if somebody calls me, I need to be able to at least answer this right? So,
Yeah.
or, hey, my kid's out on the course. I don't know where he or she are. So I want to make sure that they have their phone there so I can call them if it's time to go do whatever. So many different things like that, that the previous cart, yeah, it came out after the digital revolution, but phones just weren't as, ubiquitous as they are now. And that's just one of the things, right? There's so many other little elements that we added to the cart to make it that much easier. Another one for me was having a magnet for your rangefinder.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're different iterations, they're hanging bags, but we just found that a lot of times we'd see people, if they didn't have the rangefinder right in their hand, they would just kind of, they'd look for a sprinkler head, or they'd look for a 150 and go, close enough. And, and then come up short or fly it over or whatever. And we asked, like, why didn't you have a rangefinder? Why didn't you get it out? Said, it's in my bag. I just didn't feel like doing it that time. And you thought, all right, that's okay if you're not a competitive golfer, but if you want to get better and you want to score and you want to be more precise, use the tools that you have to your advantage. So our job is just to make sure that those tools are available to them, and that, we're taking the bag off their shoulders.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you said that hole to hole, shot to shot, hole to hole, side to side, round to round. There is kind of this Maslow hierarchy of needs for golfers. And that does come down. I mean, I was thinking about as you were answering, like, in my golf bag, where do I put the stuff I use the most? Tee, glove, divot repair tool, golf balls. They're in the middle. They're in the small pocket, above the big pocket, in the middle. And then everything else fans out from there. And I never once thought, okay, well, what's the central location for that on a push cart? But I would assume that the central location is right in front of your face, right?
Ideally, yeah. You don't want to turn that, we're calling that section up on top where we did most of our work on it, the command center, if you will, right?
Yeah.
You don't want that to look too much like a yard sale, but, form, function, on the golf course, I'm going to take function over form. So if you've got a lot of things on there, that's great. We just wanted to give consumers an option so they didn't have to have so many different attachments.
Yeah.
That we wanted to just honestly include things that should be on a cart, and not say, hey, we're going to strip this down and then make you buy a $10 attachment, a $15 accessory, et cetera, et cetera. So there were a lot of different reasons why we designed it the way we designed it, but they all came from consumer and golfer insights. Also, I did not have Maslow on my bingo card today. So nice pull on Maslow.
Shout out to AP Psychology in high school. So, all right. So you create this product, you iterate it. How many prototypes, how many iterations do you have of this before you come to market and go, that's it, we got it, we're ready to go?
This one, not as many as you would think. And that was a function of a few different things. It was, as I mentioned earlier, there's a certain amount of if it ain't broke. And one of the things Clicgear is known for, I feel like some of our brand identity is in its stability and its durability. So we wanted to get to market quickly. We didn't want to rush, it's that fine line of, time, concept, money, pick two, right? So So we looked at the cart and said, basically from the neck down, this thing is great as is. Nobody's complaining about the durability of the cart. What they're telling us is they want to interact more up here. So from neck down, we almost didn't touch it. We didn't do that much to change any of that. Everything was from the neck up. So we spent a lot of time building 3D printing, different iterations of that command center, as you call it. We reshored. They were previously made in China, and we moved to Vietnam. So finding a new factory and going back and forth. Long answer to your simple question. There were probably 3 or 4 different iterations of that console, that command center, but we landed on it pretty quickly. The guy that was helping design this for us and the product developer are guys that I've known. We worked together at Nike years ago. So I think there was some shorthand and some quick language that that we had together. But we're also, and I don't want to give away too many trade secrets, but we're working on our next iterations and building out the collection of. For a long time, I felt like Clicgear, even though we had a few other carts, that the 3, the 3.5, the 4, 4.5, it started to turn into a little bit of an iPad or an iPhone model, where it's like just one after the other, and the minute that one comes out, the other one is obsolete, right, or old. Yeah. So there are a lot of different reasons why golfers use push carts, and we need to provide carts for all of those different whys for people, and that's what we're working on next going forward. There are a lot of different iterations and different reasons and different features in carts that you can't have on everything that certain people want. So that's really the goal pushing forward.
How much of any one Clicgear model then to try to address, the different types of people is going to be consistent from one model to the next? Is it the command center? Is it, obviously the wheelbases can be different. How you store them can be different. I mean, there are a lot of different ways you could change the product, but how much of it just stays consistent from model to model, such that someone looks at it, whether it's folded out, folded up in the box, that's a Clicgear.
Right. What is that visual DNA, right? What is it that we own? When we started having those conversations, I was passionate about, I worked at Converse for a lot of years. That's where I started at Nike. And I would draw two parallel lines, and then a star with a circle above that. And I'd show it to somebody and say, what is that? And they'd say, oh, that's a Chuck Taylor. That's a Converse. It's a Converse All-Star. I was like, all right, well, what's that version for Clicgear? And it's, 3 wheels, 3 12-inch wheels, same size, very sturdy, very durable, kind of the J curve, a bit of a hockey stick curve going up. We can do anything else, but we own that profile. We really, there are others out there, but that to me is very us. I can, even before I started here, you could look across 2 holes and be like, oh, that's a Clicgear, that's not. So from a visual standpoint, it's that. And just from a consumer mindset and benefit standpoint, it's durability and stability. Those things are SUVs, man. They're trucks. And that's not by mistake. That's intentional.
The world I feel like as consumers we live in now, so much of it is the Shein, the Temu of kind of consumption model. You get something, you don't really intend to use it that much because it's cheap and you intend to throw it away. Clicgear is the antithesis of that. I mean, I know guys who have had theirs 10, 15 years and they have no intention of changing. How do you kind of balance what you just talked about, durability of these products, which is the calling card, while also at the same time trying to get the attention of those people who've had cards for that long, go, hey, maybe you want to get a new one. Maybe it's a good time to change.
Yeah, that's always a trick, right? I mean, any brand that has been built on a product to start, and most of them are, right? Most brands come out and they're indistinguishable between the thing and the idea of the thing, right? It's us making sure that each time we bring something out, there's a new idea to it. We're not making that thing obsolete. If you love that, you can still buy all kinds of accessories, and we'll constantly be giving you new iterations. If you like your purple cart because you're a Minnesota Vikings fan and we don't make a purple cart anymore, you can make this thing as modern and great. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't want to stray and say, oh, let's create a cart that's wildly different just because we need to, or because other folks are having success with different attributes, right? But again, we also want to make sure that even the same consumer, if they're really dedicated walker, they might have 2 carts for different reasons, right? You might say, hey, this is the one I travel with. This is the one I leave at my club. Or just, hey, no, I'm not that person. I got one. We know that a multiple cart player is going to be a rarity, but we want to make sure that there is, like I said, a different why. because you feel differently buying different things and you buy them for different reasons. We also know that golfers all over the world, Americans are different. We've got space, we've got room to put things. We go talk to our friends in Europe or Australia, and they say, no, we keep things more compact. Our cars aren't as big. We have lockers that we put these in. So we know we have to address the global aspect of it as well, because we are a global brand. We're distributed all over the world. So these can't all be American golf or North American golf insights.
You had mentioned right at the top, the game of golf is different, how we interact with it 6 years ago, 10 years ago, pick your time period, but it's changed. But also in that time period, the number of people who are participating in the sport has accelerated rapidly because of what happened in COVID. People took up the game, and people who were long gone and have come back, or people who were never involved have gotten involved and now they're obsessed with it.
Yep.
What percentage of those people are people that don't even know about push carts and the benefits of them? And how do you speak to those people who are either prodigal sons and daughters or people who are fresh to this?
No, it's a great question. And it's interesting because my background is advertising, writing. So that messaging is very, very important and something I'm very keen to identify. And we knew we had to target at the same time a couple of different segments. And that's hard to do, and it's almost counter to anything I would have done in my past, where it would have been like one story, one target. Anybody else that gets it, great. But we had two challenges, and those challenges were get people off their butts, get out of the cart, right, and start pushing. So there is a lot of communication about the freedom from the cart path, right?
Yeah.
Joking about, the worst 3 words in golf are cart paths only, and talking about how you're going to play better and you're going to enjoy it more in a fun way where you'll see the advertising coming out. I think you saw some of it when we were in Orlando, just basically talking about how like everybody plays at a different level, but bringing your cart with you is, pushing your cart is going to make it that much more enjoyable, and you're going to get better and still have fun. So we're trying to not full tongue in cheek, but certainly have fun with people and, joke about it. And then there's the other group, and this is a smaller group, but it's a very influential group, and it's mostly guys, but it's, we all know that person. They've got a Jones bag, right? And their sticks, they're single digits. And we even talked to, guys on the NCAA teams, like the Big Ten tournament was out here. It was at Pumpkin Ridge a couple weeks ago, and we went out and talked with those guys, did a lot of great work with folks at Michigan State. And some of those guys just say, no, I'm carrying my bag. I'm not going to push. Masculinity, aesthetics, tough guy thing. And I said to all of them, asked all of them, and we actually have this line in the campaign as well, is I say, but the best players in the world don't carry their own bags. The underlying, the unwritten question is, so why do you? And challenging that notion of, we've heard it all. Oh, what do you guys think of people who push a cart? Oh, they're hacks. They're old. It's not cool. So we know we're up against that. We're not trying to be cool. We're just trying to be a really, really sensible, smart, chosen option to enjoy the game more. Honestly, not burn yourself out. Save your back for the back nine is something we say a lot, So it's common sense, but what we do in marketing, it's behavior change, right? It's getting people to either do more of what they're already doing, stop what they're doing and try something new, or, so that's what we're talking about. We're always going to have, the Clicgear Mafia is very real, right? You go on social media and the push cart and Clicgear Mafia, they're out there. We, of course, want to serve them, but we want to grow as well. So either take your bag off your shoulder and put it on a Clicgear cart, or get your butt out of that seat and enjoy the game a bit more.
I have noticed anecdotally, maybe the last year or two, and maybe it's just the function of where I'm playing my golf, but I have noticed more places offering a push cart option as part of a fleet of push carts, and they're
Yep.
rather fundamental. They're very basic,
Yeah.
but they
They're
offer
using
some
two
version of
wheels. Yeah.
right, nothing fancy, but
Yep.
you could push it, and maybe even the occasional three wheel. But how do we get as a golf community from the conversation of when you make a tee time walk or ride to carry push or ride instead?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I like that. Um, it's having the asking the questions and having the open, honest conversations. But a lot of times, like in sport, I grew up, learning it and believing it. The athlete is the hero. The athlete is the influencer. We talk about influencer marketing for the last several years. Man, we've been doing that for a long time before that with athletes. Um, some schools like Stanford did a survey. They did a test with their men's team to look to see if pushing instead of carrying improved their game, and it did. You're in the industry, you've seen a lot of the articles. There are a couple of good ones that have come out even recently about the benefits of pushing, the benefits to your game. It's been proven you're going to score lower, and you're going to be more connected within your game. So getting that out there, having those conversations. Behavior change is hard. Most of us don't want to do it ever. Most people get get dragged kicking and screaming into any kind of change, and especially golfers. We're so ritualized, right? We're so traditional and habitual. I got to have this here and this here and that there. So we understand we're being disruptive to the conversation a little bit, but not disruption for disruption's sake, right? Disruptions for making it better for people. So we view the influx of golfers as, like anybody in the industry, but we view it as a great opportunity to get them before they've had the conversation or before they've kind of been indoctrinated into, nope, if you're a good golfer, you carry your bag.
Which, by the way, I push, I carry, and I prefer not to ride, but occasionally I will ride. I've played with people who do any or all of those things, who are very good, and all the way up to stink the worst you've ever seen. It does not seem to be any correlation whatsoever between your mode of transportation and your capabilities as a player. So how on earth did that, and this is probably an existential question, how on earth did that happen in the first place, where someone decided if you do X, and I'll throw in a whole bunch, there's a whole bunch of other things like that in golf. If you do X, then you are a pariah, or you're bad, or you're not cool or hip. How did that happen?
That's a great question. I think probably it stemmed back to the old school carts. Like I can still in my mind see my grandfather pulling this like rusted jackknife of a cart out of the back of his, like Chevy, whatever, and being like, here you go. And it just looked cheap, right? If you think back on some of those old school carts, like, they're still around and they serve a purpose, because not everybody can drop $340 on a cart. They're expensive. I think it probably stems back to that. It was for, this is going to sound terrible, but I think it was for old folks and for women, right? If you were a man's man, you either had a caddy, or you drove, or you carried it yourself. And that stuff is so antiquated and so far behind us. The changing, we're not trying to change culture, but we definitely are definitely trying to change the conversation around this. So that's my theory. I don't know. I think Clicgear did some great work in changing that and just presenting the push cart as a different entity, as a different creature. Make it look different, make it feel different. It's not that rusty old thing that somebody bought at, insert random sporting goods store here in 1975. It's a cool SUV.
Yeah. We went a long way from mom wagon minivans and absolute unit SUVs to pretty much everyone has an SUV and no one has a car anymore. So
Right.
things can change, styles can
Yes.
change, tastes can change. But like you said, if you are a utilitarian kind of person and you see the benefit and you feel the benefit, then that's probably the quickest way to convince people. So, all right, last question. What does Clicgear do to get more people to experience the joy of pushing without necessarily upfront having to commit that $340 to then fall in love with their purchase?
Great question. Lots of different ways coming at it. I'd say number one is product innovation. We talked about earlier, making sure that we've got a variety of options so consumers can, there's an entry level, there's a super executive, platinum level. There are other things we didn't even talk about electric, and that's part of the conversation going forward as well, as everyone is going to expect. So it's innovating strategically so that that product construct that most consumers don't think about, because it's, it gets built behind the magic curtain at places like Clicgear and Nike and wherever. But that's the consideration set that goes into that. And then continuing to have the open conversation and challenging golfers to try something new and try something different by giving it, putting it in the hands of the influential people in golf, right? We all have that one pro or that one player at our club or our local that we all go, oh man, look at that swing. She's just incredible. Or look at how far he hit that, right? Getting them to embrace the pushcart revolution, if you will, I think will start to go a long way as well to diffuse that myth of great golfers, good golfers, committed golfers don't push a cart, they carry it, or they ride to make it more, faster. It's hard being in the middle sometimes, right? When you're on the extremes, we're trying to create that very meaningful, strategic, neutral area, if you will. And I'm never the one that's inclined to go to a neutral area. But when the two extremes are out there, finding that middle, I think, can be really powerful.
Well, John, thank you so much for spending some time talking to me about Clicgear and your role in everything, kind of building this brand back up and building up new models. It's really, really exciting. I'd love to have you back on as the stuff you can't talk about becomes more public knowledge. And
I'll let you know as soon as I can.
But we'll keep having this conversation. I think it's an important one, and I think people should really know the benefits of having a push cart that they can rely on and really love. So thanks for coming on with us. Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you asking me to come on. It was a great conversation we had, and I look forward to having more.